Dawie, I suspect that you're on the side of Tito Mboweni here.
Very much so. The reality is that we've had at least 10 so-called turnaround plans. South African Airways has cost us, the South African taxpayers, tens of billions of rands. They still owe us a lot of money. If we close South African Airways down, even that is going to cost us a lot of money. And I can't really see how anybody will be interested in buying a stake in South African Airways. Why will anybody want to buy a stake in a totally bankrupt company that owes tens of billions of rands to debtors? So the best solution that I can see is simply to close it down. And I simply do not understand why we as the South African taxpayers must keep on subsidizing something that's being used primarily by the rich in the country. We can use this money so much better by spending it on the poor.
Well, the CEO says it's completely salvageable. They're sort of fixing up the routes. They're focusing on the profitable routes. Who's right here?
Well, let's look at history. We've heard exactly the same story for like I've said, at least 10 previous attempts of turning the South African Airways around. It is possible, and I've had a look at some airlines, it is possible for relatively small airlines to service certain niche markets, like, for example, servicing the South African market only, and there are a couple of privately owned South African airlines that do it quite successfully. But it's nearly impossible for an airline to service a large international network if you're not really, really big. And I'm talking about the really big guys, like Emirates, for example. They have economics of scale. They really cracked that specific nut. They know how to run a big airline like this. And I just cannot see how South Africa will be able to somehow get a foothold on the international market. And we've tried it so many times before. And there's absolutely no reason why we should have an airline. And the excuse about the flag is simply that I simply do not accept. There are many examples. The Swiss is a very good example where they closed down their airline because it was bankrupt, exactly like the South African Airways, and somebody else is flying the flag for the Swiss. We can do exactly the same for South Africa.
But what about Ethiopian Airlines that is doing wonderfully well even on this continent?
That is, well, I think Ethiopian Airline is exactly one of those examples where a relatively small airline is not trying to discover or to try to take on the rest of the world. They're doing what they can do, and they say servicing primarily the local market, which they can do, and they're doing, surprisingly, and I have to admit, a good job at that. But if you're looking at South African Airlines, they've had so many times of getting this airline right, and they couldn't succeed in doing that. And I simply do not believe they will, if we give them money again, that this time around it will be different. No, I simply don't believe that. They've proved in the past that this airline cannot be salvaged as a running operation. It is simply not possible.
All right, so while this all goes on, the debate continues to rage. The finance minister expressed his personal view, he says.
Yeah.
But the CEO of SAA is saying, why would you buy tickets in an airline that may close down? Could this have serious ramifications for SAA?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, if people think that the airline is going to close down, they're going to stop buying tickets in that. And I do not think the South African airline is going to close down within the next couple of months. This is going to take a long time. Politically, it's not easy to do this, as you've reported already on the reaction for Cusatu, for example. But certainly, if there are rumors doing around that South African Airlines is going to be closed down, it will affect their business. But like I've said so many times before, is that this is a business that is simply not working. We are spending tens of billions of rands on the South African Airlines, and this is money that we can spend so much better somewhere else. The sooner that we do this, the sooner we pull the plug, the better.
All right, a strong view. Thank you very much, economist Dawie Roodt.